Welcome to the True Guy Globe Brief Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for updates. Iloilo, Philippines, July 11, 2025. The city awoke beneath a golden haze, its streets alive with the rhythm of early morning. Jeepneys rumbled past colonial facades, and the scent of street food mingled with the humid air. Here, in the heart of the Visayas, life pulsed with a vibrant energy that seemed to promise both anonymity and discovery. In a quiet corner of this bustling city, a man once sworn to secrecy found unexpected refuge. He watched the world from behind a cup of bitter coffee, blending into the background, unnoticed by the crowds that hurried past. The city's noise became his shield, its chaos a perfect cover for a man who had spent years hiding in plain sight. His name was Raza, whispered only in the clandestine corridors of Iranian intelligence. To most he was a ghost, an enigma whose true face was known only to a select few. Every step he took was calculated, every glance measured, as if the world itself was a chessboard and he, a master of invisible moves. His mission: gather information, report back, and remain a ghost. He was tasked with observing, never participating, collecting secrets, never sharing his own. The stakes were high, and failure meant more than disgrace. It meant disappearance. But in the humid air of the Philippines, the lines between duty and humanity began to blur. The relentless heat pressed in on him, making every moment feel heavy, every decision more difficult. The city's warmth was not just in its climate but in its people, a warmth that threatened to melt the icy resolve he had built over years of service. He entered a small church, not seeking God, but a target, and found a community that would challenge everything he knew about loyalty and fear. The church was a sanctuary for many, a place where strangers became family, and where even a foreigner could find a moment of peace. Raza felt the weight of eyes upon him, not with suspicion, but with welcome. Raza's life had been a fortress of lies, his own identity buried beneath layers of fabricated histories. Each passport told a different story, each alias a mask he wore to survive. He had become so adept at deception that he sometimes wondered if the real Raza still existed at all. He moved through the world like a phantom, connections fleeting and transactional. Every interaction was a means to an end, every relationship a potential liability. He had learned to keep his distance, to never let anyone get too close. His training stripped away empathy, replacing it with cold objectives. He was taught to suppress emotion, to see people as assets or threats, never as friends. The mission always came first, no matter the cost. Trust was a liability, emotion a weakness. In his world, vulnerability could be fatal, and so he built walls around his heart, letting no one in. Yet the Philippines had a warmth that seeped through his hardened exterior. He saw families sharing laughter over simple meals, children playing in sunlit streets, neighbors helping neighbors without hesitation. It was a kind of life he had never known, and it stirred something long dormant within him. Surrounded by a community built on generosity, Raza began to question the cold, empty world he had always known. The kindness of strangers unsettled him, forcing him to confront the possibility that there was more to life than survival and secrecy. The contrast was stark, a quiet hum of dissonance that unsettled the spy within. For the first time, Raza wondered if he could ever truly belong, or if he was destined to remain a shadow, forever on the outside looking in. Raza's journey into espionage was born of circumstance, not passion. Recruited young, he was molded into an instrument of national security, his desires erased for duty. He learned to disappear, to build relationships on deception, keeping his true self locked away. His life was lonely, no friends, no family, only contacts and targets. Isolation bred cynicism. Kindness was a myth, a tool for manipulation. In Europe and the Middle East, suspicion was his default, and he never questioned orders. But the Philippines was different. Open faith, joy, and community disarmed him. For the first time, his armor felt less like protection and more like a cage. Raza arrived in Manila as a freelance journalist, a cover that let him move freely. The city was chaos, roaring traffic, sizzling food, endless chatter. His mission tracked foreign nationals suspected of subversive activity. He set up surveillance, noting vulnerabilities and routines. Yet he couldn't ignore the small acts of kindness. A guard sharing lunch, strangers helping each other, neighbors leaving doors unlocked. These gestures were foreign to his worldview, illogical, inefficient, and deeply human. Filipino warmth created friction within him. His training saw it as weakness, but he felt a strange longing. Watching families in parks, he felt a pang of emptiness. The most foreign thing in Manila was the man he saw in the mirror. Raza's mission had taken him far from the bustling streets of Manila, guiding his steps to the quieter, sun-dappled roads of Iloilo. He was following a target, his every move calculated, his senses sharpened by years of training. The trail led him to a small Catholic church, its whitewashed walls standing in gentle contrast to the vibrant life of the provincial town. Inside, the church was unassuming, yet beautiful in its simplicity. The air was thick with the scent of polished wood and fresh sampaguita blossoms, mingling with the faint aroma of melting candle wax. The congregation was a tapestry of generations, children fidgeting beside their parents, elders with hands folded in reverence, teenagers sharing shy glances and quiet laughter. Raza, who was more accustomed to the sterile, impersonal environments of his profession, found himself enveloped by an unexpected sense of intimacy. The sunlight streaming through stained glass painted gentle colors across the pews, and for a moment, the world outside seemed to fade away. He tried to keep his focus on the mission, eyes scanning for his target, but the soft harmonies of hymns and the priest's gentle, heartfelt sermon began to seep into his awareness. The words, though simple, carried a weight of sincerity that was hard to ignore. Religion, which Raza had always viewed as a tool for control or manipulation, here revealed another side. In this place, faith was not about power, but about comfort, hope, and the invisible threads that bound the community together. He saw people sharing quiet moments of connection, their prayers whispered with genuine longing and gratitude. His professional detachment began to falter as he watched the sincerity etched on the faces around him. The boundaries he had built over years of secrecy and suspicion seemed to blur, replaced by a growing sense of empathy. An old woman, her hands trembling slightly, prayed with her eyes closed, lips moving in silent devotion, while a father gently soothed his restless child, offering comfort with a soft touch and a reassuring smile. Nearby, a group of teenagers sang with unrestrained joy, their voices rising in harmony, filling the church with a sense of hope and youthful energy. None of it felt rehearsed or forced. It was simply the honest expression of their hearts. For the first time in years, Raza felt something shift inside him. Instead of suspicion, a gentle curiosity took root. He found himself wondering about the lives of these people, their stories, their struggles, and their faith. The warmth in the room was more than just the sunlight, it was the collective spirit of the congregation, a quiet invitation to belong. It pulled at him, unsettling his carefully constructed defenses and stirring emotions he thought he had long buried. Sitting alone in the pew, Raza felt the first stirrings of something real, a sense of connection, of awakening. The spy, for a fleeting moment, was simply a man among others, touched by the accidental congregation he had never meant to join. Raza became a regular at the church, notebook in hand, quietly observing the ebb and flow of the congregation. He sat in the same pew each time, blending into the background, his eyes scanning the stained glass windows and the faces around him. The church, with its soft light and gentle echoes, became a place where he could watch without being watched, a rare sanctuary for someone used to living in the shadows. On his third visit, as the morning sun filtered through the windows, Anna, a church volunteer, approached him with a warm, genuine smile. Her presence was gentle, her steps unhurried, as if she sensed the need for caution. She asked if he was new, her questions gentle and focused on how he felt, not who he was. Anna didn't pry or press for details. Instead, she offered a listening ear, asking if he was comfortable, if the church felt welcoming, and if there was anything she could do to help him feel at home. Their conversation soon became routine, a comforting ritual in Raza's otherwise unpredictable life. Anna shared stories of faith, but always as compassion, not doctrine. She spoke of kindness, of helping neighbors, of the small acts that made a community strong. Her words were never preachy, always sincere, and Raza found himself listening more closely than he intended. She listened intently, asking about his travels, his impressions of the city, and his favorite places to find peace. Anna made him feel seen as a person, not a persona or a stranger passing through. Her attention was genuine, her curiosity never invasive. Raza's training warned him to be wary, to question every kindness, to look for the angle behind every smile. But Anna's sincerity was quietly disarming, her warmth a gentle challenge to his guarded nature. He searched for hidden motives in her words and gestures, but found only kindness and a genuine desire to connect. It unsettled him, this lack of pretense. Gradually, he began to look forward to their talks, a rare warmth in his solitude. The anticipation of their next conversation became a small beacon in his week, something he hadn't realized he was missing. Anna's humanity challenged his cynicism, becoming the most complex variable in his mission. Her kindness forced him to question his assumptions, to reconsider the boundaries he'd built around himself. The spy's defenses, so carefully constructed over years, were quietly crumbling. In the stillness of the church, he found himself reflecting on his own vulnerability, something he rarely allowed. Each Sunday he found himself less the observer, more the participant. He started to join in small ways, sharing a hymn, helping arrange chairs, exchanging greetings with others. The line between outsider and insider began to blur. Anna's presence was changing him in ways he couldn't explain. Her gentle inquiry had opened a door he thought was forever closed. And for the first time in a long while, Raza wondered if he could truly belong. Anna's welcome was the first crack, but the community's relentless hospitality dismantled Raza's armor. Soon, he was greeted by name. Lolo Ben saved him a seat. Maria shared her bread. Small gestures, given freely, weighed heavily on him. Invited to a community lunch, he hesitated, then accepted. At the table, surrounded by laughter and food, he felt dislocated, a spy in sunlight sharing a meal with his targets. He witnessed Bayanihan people helping, comforting, and working together. These experiences chipped away at his detachment. He was gathering intelligence but also learning names and tasting home-cooked adobo. The warmth was not a tactic, it was changing him. The fortress around his heart was under siege, not by force but by simple goodness. The lines between spy and neighbor blurred. The turning points were quiet moments. One day, Raza helped a girl read during church. Anna's grateful smile struck a chord. The music, once dismissed, began to move him. Hymns of forgiveness and redemption echoed in his mind. He started reading the Gospels, struck by teachings of loving enemies and caring for the marginalized. These words indicted the man he'd become and whispered of who he could be. By day he was a spy. By night, a man wrestling with conscience. The certainty of his mission dissolved into doubt. He felt divided, the operative at war with a reawakening heart. The life he'd known was slipping away. The turmoil built until it broke during a Sunday service. The priest's sermon on the prodigal son spoke of forgiveness and redemption. Raza, overwhelmed, stayed seated as the congregation sang, tears streaming down his face. After the service, Father Miguel approached, waiting in silence. Raza confessed everything, his real name, his mission, his surveillance. He expected condemnation, but Father Miguel listened with compassion. The priest spoke of the heart's capacity for change, and that confession was a beginning, not an end. True peace, he said, could not be found while living a lie. In the quiet church, Raza's life of secrecy ended with a simple act of grace. The spy's burden was finally shared. For the first time, Raza glimpsed the possibility of redemption. The journey home had begun. Father Miguel urged Raza to share his story with the community. Terrified, Raza confessed before the congregation, his real name, his mission, his deception. Silence followed. Anna's face was hurt, the crowd stunned. He braced for condemnation. But Lolo Ben stood, speaking softly. The man before them was not the same as the one who'd arrived. Others followed, Maria reminding all that forgiveness was at the core of their faith. The response was compassion, not anger. Anna offered a forgiving handshake. The community embraced him. They saw not a spy but a soul seeking refuge. They offered him a chance to rebuild, to find redemption among them. In a small Filipino church, a man of lies found his truth. Raza's story became a quiet legend, a testament to forgiveness and the power of compassion. Even the most hardened heart can be transformed by grace.